Game over right here on 1450 AM, WCTC, WCTCAM.com. John Pielli, Mike Sanfilippo with you. Lots to get into in this last hour here. But before we get to it, we're going to introduce our next guest, a man who spent 16 years in the major leagues, won the Cy Young in 1977. Also spent 15 years as the inaugural and longtime manager of the Somerset Patriots, and now is the ambassador to the team, and that's Sparky Lyle. Sparky, this is John Pielli and Mike Sanfilippo over in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Thanks for having a couple minutes today.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Hey, Sparky, first question I want to ask you, obviously you spent a lot of years pitching in the major leagues. Since then, you followed the game, a lot. What do you have to say to the way pitchers are being used today as opposed to when you pitched in the major leagues?
Well, I think they're much more effective, just coming in and pitching ninth inning, especially the closers. And, I mean, we didn't do it that way. I think it is better for them. They're much stronger towards the end of the season, and especially now that you got guys throwing 97 miles an hour, and that's pretty tough to hit. And I know, when I talk to a lot of the guys from my era, we wish we could have just pitched the ninth too. But the scenario back then was, if so and so and so and so gets on, then you're going to face this guy. So they usually waited till you had one or two guys on base before they brought you in. But I think the way they're doing it right now, plus they got, if a pitcher goes 5 or 6 innings, they have somebody for each one of those innings to get to that closer. And, back in the day, Dick Tidrow would kind of played that part for me. He was kind of the early guy, not the late guy. But I went in the games. I mean, a lot of times in the seventh.
Sparky, Mike Sanfilippo here. Today, John and I talked about this in an earlier segment about the rash of injuries. I know that's a big story going around baseball today. I heard Leo Mazzoni in a couple of interviews in the recent past saying, and everybody's got a theory about this, the Tommy John surgeries and other things too, like what Harvey's going through with the shoulder. He says that he has seen this a lot. Young kids today who are phenoms, or considered phenoms when they're coming up, are throwing way too hard, way too often, way too early in their developmental years. And he goes to baseball camps and stuff, and he sees these kids show up with their fathers or high school coaches who might be the same guy, and maybe even an agent, and they got a radar gun in tow. I mean, is instead of learning how to pitch at that age, I mean, your view on that, is that something that might be something that's hurting these kids today?
Well, I think it is. I think one of the things is that they're practicing baseball year-round. They take a month off. I'm talking about 10, 11-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And they're right back at it again. And you got to get away from that. Another thing that I think is causing some of these things too is all the heavy training they do, the weightlifting, all that. I mean, when I played, I honestly don't remember anybody ever tearing the muscle away from their rib cage and things like that some of these hitters do now, and and I think when you get to professional ball, there's just such a more pressure on you. Every single pitch means something. When you and I'm not saying that college ball is not important, or I don't mean that, but even from college ball, you're going to pitch a different way when you go to the big leagues, because every freaking pitch means something, and you end up throwing the ball harder, and you're, you might want to snap a slider off a little bit harder, and so on and so forth, and when they throw at this velocity now, and I'm sure Mazzoni would agree with this, is you just open up a little bit too much, and your arm gets behind. That's when you're going to tear that thing up.
I wonder if that's, to your point, I wonder if that's what we saw with Syndergaard Because Syndergaard last year was throwing 100 miles an hour in the 7th inning or even later than that. And then during the offseason, he went and put on 17 pounds of added muscle because he said he wanted to throw harder. And
you see, that doesn't work. You need long, lean muscles to be a pitcher. I mean, if you're not that type of guy, I think you're more susceptible to injury. But like I say, if you just get a little out of sync there in your delivery, and with the kind of torque that you're putting on your arm, I mean, it has to go. It just has to go. And I know when the baseball season ended when I played, and this was every year.
Mm-hmm.
When I threw the last pitch, if I pitched in that last, I did not even look at a baseball or even say the word till I went to spring training. You got 6 weeks to get ready. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I usually held out for a couple weeks, and so I only needed 4.
Yeah, but in the end, you were able to get yourself in the right shape, and it ended up working for you.
You get in baseball shape.
Well, I'm looking at your numbers right now. The year you won the the year you won the Heisman,
the Cy Young Award.
The Cy Young Award.
Did he? Wait, Sparky.
That was
Did you win the Heisman too?
You might have. He that year, 1977, when you were also 6th in the MVP voting, 72 appearances. That by far was your most appearances that you ever did in one season.
Right.
So I'm looking at maybe these kids are also being worked a little bit too much. Also, when.
Well, they could be, but I mean the thing about being a closer too, and there's a lot of guys out there that are very, very good at what they do, and the one thing is that you got to be able to throw strikes. You got to be able to make the hitter swing the bat. That cuts down on your pitch count.
Yeah,
I mean that's why I could pitch so many days in a row and things like that. Is I could pitch an inning, maybe only throw 7 pitches because they hit the ball. I struck out guys when I really needed to strike out guys.
Ron Darling has talked about that on the Mets telecast, how he only bears down. He's not a big fan of that max effort from, and we're talking about starting now, that max effort from the first inning on. It was I guess when you had Greg Nettles behind you and guys like that, Willie Randolph, it was easy to pitch the contact for you.
Well, that's all I had to do, just make the ball go down, and I was going to get out of that inning. And with all, everybody talks about, you start flashing that 99 or 101 up on that scoreboard, for the miles an hour, and then they, and the crowd loves it. I'm not saying it's not enticing, but
yeah, it's sexy.
You can only do that. You can only do that for so long, and you're not going to have that kind of control when you're throwing at that velocity.
Yeah, we're talking to Sparky Lyle, ex-Yankee, Sparky Lyle, who helped the Yankees both coming and going. Danny Cater back in 1972.
Yep.
And then when you left, they traded you for Dave Righetti.
That's right.
Who I believe broke your save record. Was it your save record, or was it Goose's that he broke?
No, he broke mine and then pitched a no-hitter.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Listen to that game. It was 1983.
Yeah. Thing of beauty.
And wasn't it the very next year he got the 46 saves? 40, something like that? Yeah.
I think it might have been 85 or 80.
I mean, that's the other thing about the saves, too. It's so easy to get 55 saves if you're going to pitch the ninth inning.
Yeah. All you got to do is protect. All you got to do is protect a 3-run lead in the ninth inning. That's all you got to do.
Right. I know. And the thing is that it was so hard. If I come in with a guy in first and second and nobody out or one out, I mean, there's only one thing on my mind. I need this double play ball right now. And that's what you tried to do. You just tried to throw a sinker or something that went down and get the ball on the ground, and I knew that infield was, if it got to them, they were going to turn to double play.
Yeah, and back then...
today, when you're throwing 97 miles an hour, I don't think they think that way.
No, they don't.
All they're thinking about is, I'm going to blow this ball right by this guy. Yeah. And you can only do that for so long, and especially, and then you get behind them, 2-0 or 3-1 or something like that. These hitters they can hit that 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
If you throw straight, if you throw straight, they're going to hit it.
Yeah, well, most of them do throw four-seamers when they're throwing that stuff, and it's just believe me, I've talked with other guys about all these guys getting hurt and everything, and I think both of the things that we talked about just a minute ago, the training and the weightlifting and the constant throwing I think that goes hand in hand. Some of these guys when you see them, they look like they're triathletes, for Christ's sake. I mean, they're just so strong and tight and then they got to spend a half hour stretching before the game to do anything.
That was my next question to you. When you're that heavily muscled, like a lot of these guys are today, it probably takes you a long time to get loose for the game. I mean, to stretch all that stuff out.
Well, but they're still going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because it's just so tough to play that game like that when you're tight all the time.
We're talking to Sparky Lyle of the Somerset Patriots, a 5-time Atlantic League pennant winner.
Yeah.
In 2001, 3, 5, 8, and 9, and he managed the Patriots all the way up until 2012.
Also made it to the finals 3 other years.
And had his number retired, which is something I want to get into before we take our first break here.
All right.
You're invited to the Yankees' next Old Timers game, and
yes.
What I understand, you're still a little up in the air about it.
I'm pretty sure I can get off, and I'm going to go.
Okay, because they want to celebrate number one, the World Series championship, which was their first one in I think 15 years,
yep.
And also 40 years since you won your Cy Young Award. So I don't know how many relationships you've kept going with all those players, but
I don't think we'll even though we don't see each other very often, but. And you end up maybe going to a golf tournament or something like that, and you run into each other. It's so nice to just sit down and you just kind of pick up right where you were 15 years ago.
Even with Goose?
Oh, yeah. Goose and I have been friends for 30 years.
Really?
Absolutely.
Good for you.
I mean, a lot of people, I think a lot of people didn't think we were friends because of, them getting Goose in and trading me and all that. That had nothing to. Hey, I told him. I said, I never blamed the Yankees for bringing Goose in. The only thing that I felt that they should have done once they knew they were going to do that was to trade me because it just wasn't going to work out. Here's two guys that are closers and we're used to being in 70 games a year.
Yeah.
And they were going to. That was what was said. Well, it will be the best right-left-handed combination in the major leagues. Well, that definitely wasn't true because you can't split that time.
No.
I mean, if Goose and I, let's say we split that time, we're in 35 games. We're going to be two terrible pitchers out there. Let me tell you.
Now, Sparky, let me ask you as a pickup question off of that. Do you feel that perhaps a tandem like a Sparky Lyle and a Goose Gossage working together could work a little better in the game the way it's played now and the way the bullpens are managed nowadays as opposed to then?
Well, I would say most definitely because we'd both be in that game every single night.
Yeah.
Which one of you would be the eighth inning man?
I'm
going to hold your feet to the fire. Man.
Absolutely.
I remember watching the playoff game against the Red Sox on TV. We got to take a break in a second here. I thought for all the world you were going to come in and face Yaz with 2 out and 2 on in the ninth inning. I thought I said, look at this. It's going to happen. It's going to be Sparky against Yaz.
Well, I can tell you, I knew I wasn't going in that game because Goose was throwing 97 that night.
Wow.
But they were getting to him a little bit.
Well, but here's the thing. Yaz was a little bit up in the years back then, and the first fastball that Goose threw him, I played with Yaz, and Yaz put a real good swing in that ball, and he couldn't catch up.
He popped it up the nettles, yeah.
Yeah.
In your time with the Patriots, have you sat on any birthday cakes?
I'm still in therapy.
Yes. I understand it was Ron Swoboda who got you back.
Yeah, I know. That was a thing of beauty. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, you loved them Hotfoots. You loved to be. Were you the guy that kept that clubhouse loose? It was a weird clubhouse they kind of took over from the Oakland A's as being the team that liked to have those fights and whatever in the clubhouse. We all know about the Nettles-Jackson dynamic.
Yeah.
But were you the guy that the team looked to kind of keep things loose?
I don't think they looked for that. I was the type of guy that if I saw something that that I could have some fun with, I never planned anything the day before. Everything just kind of happened spontaneously, and I never did anything to hurt anybody or
I know that.
or destroy something that they liked and things like that. Although when I cut Bobby Mercer's rocking chair off, that was a real memento for him, which I didn't know, and
yeah.
He told me that. I said, well, I'll buy you a new chair. No. He says, I'm going to fix it. So when he fixed it, he glued it, the rockers back on it, and then it was too short to even rock after that. So I got him twice, I guess.
There you go. How about your relationship? Probably the most beloved Yankee at that time was, to me, no doubt. And you're talking to a card-carrying Yankee hater here.
Well, that's very nice.
Was Thurman Munson? Tell me about your relationship with Thurman Munson.
Well, Thurman was something special, as we all know. But I just loved the guy, and we were very, very, very good friends, as a pitcher and a catcher should be. But the greatest thing he ever said to me, and this was typical Thurman, when I knew him from playing against him and things like that, but when I got to the clubhouse the first day after I was traded over there, he came over to me. He said, "Sit down for a minute," and I said, "Okay." And he said, "I just want to tell you this." He said, "I'm only going to tell you this once." He says, "You come in with the guy on third, and you get ahead of the hitter, 0-2, 1-2. He says, you better throw that slider in the dirt." He says, and I won't ever let it get past me. Wow. And I just sit there and I went, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this before. And I can tell you, this guy, what he did for me right there was, because you would think about things like that, especially with the runner on third and the game on the line. Geez, can I really bounce this thing like I should to strike this guy out? Well, he took that all away. So he actually gave me more confidence. Not that I didn't have confidence, but he gave me more confidence out there that just by saying that to me. And then he got up and went back over to his locker.
How great was that? To have the catcher come to you and say, "Don't worry about it. Throw your
I'll
block it.
Worry about
I will block it."
Oh, yeah.
It's not getting by me. Go ahead, John.
And I remember in Milwaukee, I threw one in the dirt, and for some reason it didn't bounce up because Thurman really smothered the ball when you threw it in the dirt.
Right.
But this thing it scooted right in between his legs and got by him, and there was a little cement ridge that went around the old Milwaukee Stadium, and by the time Thurman turned around, there was a runner on third. It had hit that cement ridge and bounced right back to him, and we were waiting on him at home.
Hey, you got to get the bounces. You can go ahead,
That's right.
Yeah, once again, John Pielli, Mike Sanfilippo, joined by Sparky Lyle. Now, Sparky, I wanted to ask you about, after you were traded from the Yankees to the Rangers, you ended up coming across a pretty good team there. A team's got Fergie Jenkins. They were kind of, on the rise.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
well, I'd say the biggest thing that I noticed playing for the Rangers was that the heat, and you got to get out in it and you got to play in it. But what really I think hurt the pitching staff, which is usually what goes down the tubes there, is when you make that East Coast swing in July.
Mm-hmm.
When it's because it's a different kind of heat here. It's just a different kind of heat, and that just wipes you out. And then you go back there. I know we had, I want to say, at least 10 days or 12 days, maybe more or less, that it was 110 degrees down there, and it just blisters you. And I think it just takes its toll on that team. And it was just because all of a sudden, man, you'd go to the ballpark and you'd just be drained, and you'd go out in that heat and start doing your work and things like that. But that we did have a good team, and that's actually what I think happened to us.
Now going back to that team, did you anticipate Jim Kern having the season that he had in 1979?
Well, I knew I wasn't going to pitch much down there, so I actually helped him. During that season because I knew he was going to be the guy that was on the line every night. I would tell him little things to do out there, to try and conserve his energy. And Jim was a little goofy like I am, so I guess we had that in common. But he was absolutely phenomenal that year. He really was.
I think you should come back. I think you should come back so you can get that 100th career win.
Well, I actually had my 100th career win when I was with the White Sox, and I had got out of a jam in the eighth and went into after I got out of the jam, and I was getting ready to go back out, and I told him the rooster says, no, you're done. I'll bring in Solomé Brojas, that was the closer for the White Sox back then. And I think the second pitch, we went up 1-0, and we scored a run and went ahead, and
he gave it up.
Went out and gave up the dinger, and I had already made up my mind I was retiring. And
16 years.
And I did, and I went out on my own terms, and I got to tell you, very honestly, I have no regrets. I had a couple calls to go to spring training and stuff, and I thought about trying to get that 100th win and everything, but I made up my mind, and I wanted to go out on top, and believe me, to this day, I would do it the same way.
Well, you're the first lefty to get to 100 saves. You can say that.
Yeah. I had a few records. I don't think many of them are standing anymore. But hey, I had a great career, and I had a good time, and I have a couple rings, and I mean, hey, I'm good to go.
Gotcha.
Hey, once again, John Pielli, Mike Sanfilippo here with Sparky Lyle, and we appreciate you having the time. Last question I want to ask you. You had a chance to play for a lot of very good teams. You were on the 67 Red Sox that made it to the World Series. Yeah. The 76 Yankees who lost the World Series to the Reds, of course, the back-to-back World Series in 77 and 8. But you were also on the Phillies team that won the World Series in 1980. Going back your entire career, the best all-around team that you ever played for?
I got to say the 76 team.
Really? Before Reggie?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we won games that people didn't even know how we won games. Maybe we didn't know how we won games, but I absolutely loved that team. Everybody knew what their job was. There was no bitching going on.
Was that Catfish's first year or second year with the team?
Yeah, that was Catfish's first year.
Okay, go ahead.
And I mean, it was just everything just fell into place every single day. And I mean, I know that when the Reds beat us 4 in a row, we wanted to win to get back in the World Series the next year to see if we could match up against the Big Red Machine again.
Yeah, I know. That would have been interesting if that happened, but the Dodgers beat them.
I know, and believe me, we talked about it. We just because we were really,
especially after Sparky Anderson's comments about Thurman after the fourth game.
Well, I know.
Game over here on WCTC 1450 AM and streaming live on WCTCAM.com. Real quick, any thought of retiring, or are you just enjoying your time with the Patriots too much?
I'm really enjoying my time with the Patriots, and I look forward to. I'm going up there on Friday, and I mean it's just been one wonderful experience for me, especially being there from the very beginning when we all talked about what the Atlantic League could turn into and why they formed the league, and that's really what got me going. Was there was all these guys that would get released from spring training every year, and and most of them would just go home, and because they had nowhere to play, and well, they could have played in a beer league or whatever.
That's what I played.
That was, you're not going to do that, and we needed some kind of venue to have the credibility to, when the scouts came and see these guys, after they get a little bit stronger from whatever injury or operation or whatever it is that they had, and I think we've achieved that. Going forward every year. I mean, when the scouts come to see these guys, they know that they're facing a lot of major league pitchers. If they're hitting 300, it's a legitimate 300. And if you got a pitcher out there that's you got 6-1 and with a 220, which I haven't seen that as of late, but you know that he's facing some good hitters, and it really works out well. And we've done a great job in getting guys back to organizations.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
That's the bittersweet part of it,
Yeah, I think it's great. You just like being involved in baseball. You like staying involved. That's really terrific.
Absolutely. Yes.
I know they got a pitching coach there, but I'm probably, I wonder if any one of them has approached you and say, "Hey, Sparky, what do you think about this or about that?"
No, I stay in the back.
You're not stepping on any toes, huh?
As a professional courtesy, when Brett Jody took over, I haven't even been in the clubhouse.
Oh, there you go. You're not stepping on any toes.
I just think that's the way you do things. That's the way we did things, and it was his team when, for one day to the next, and that's the way I treat it.
Oh, great. All right. Well, I want to really thank you for coming on. John and I really appreciate your time and a lot of good stuff. I mean, it was a lot of fun talking to you, and maybe at the end of the year, maybe we'll have you on again to talk about their playoff possibilities.
Yeah, we can do that. I appreciate it. Had a good time, guys. Thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sparky. We really appreciate you coming on.
Have a pleasant evening, and we'll see you at the stadium one of these nights.
All right, man. Thanks.
Be good.
All right, and that was Sparky Lyle.